All right, we're turning to one of our top stories today. After 73 days, mass detentions and the deaths of 2 American citizens, a surge in immigration enforcement efforts in Minneapolis is now ending. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, announcing this morning that the success of that crackdown contributed to the end of what was known as Operation Metro Surge. The enforcement effort sparked outrage across the country after Renee Good and Alex Preddy were both killed by federal agents. The Department of Homeland Security says more than 4,000 undocumented immigrants have been apprehended since the operation began back in November. Citing all of that progress, Homan said the president accepted his proposal to wind things down.
I'm also pleased to report that we're seeing a notable decrease on unlawful agitator activity here in Minneapolis and overall throughout the state. With that, and success that has been made arresting public safety threats and other priorities since this surge operation began, as well as the unprecedented levels of coordination we have obtained from state officials and local law enforcement, I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
The announcement comes as the Senate Homeland Security Committee hears from 4 Minnesota officials and the leaders of 3 major immigration agencies. The testimony from Minnesota state officials focused heavily on cooperation between federal authorities and state and local officials. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison called the immigration surge in the state, quote, retribution, and said that it was motivated by politics. Now, during testimony from the immigration officials there, acting head of ICE Todd Lyons said that the agency wants to work in collaboration with local authorities, but it hasn't been met with cooperation. Border Patrol Commissioner Rodney Scott also vowed to release officers' body camera video from the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy. And CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins me now. So, Nikole, you spoke with Attorney General Ellison following that testimony. What did he have to say about it?
You know, obviously, during the course of that hearing is when we learned about that announcement from border czar Tom Homan that there would be a drawdown in Minnesota. And so I asked the Attorney General about that after the hearing. Take a listen.
Do you think they're doing this in good faith? Obviously, this comes at a time where DHS funding is at stake. Or do you think this is just a posture to retain funding?
To be very direct, I don't care if it's a good faith or not. I just want them gone. I mean, I don't know if it's a good faith or not. If maybe it is, sure. If it's not, either way, if the result is the same, then it's all right with me.
So obviously, the Attorney General there relieved by that announcement, as have other Minnesota officials who have weighed in, Minnesota lawmakers who believe that this drawdown was long overdue. But that being said, as I asked the Attorney General there, this does come against the broader backdrop of a funding fight over ICE and its conduct, which is kind of caught up in funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, the Senate now voting on those funding measures as we speak, Chanel.
Any other big fiery moments from that testimony, Nikole? I mean, the timing here obviously interesting, and this is a big about face for the administration.
Yeah, well, obviously, we have seen them try to lower the temperature in Minnesota by bringing in officials like Tom Homan. Obviously, Kristi Noem, the head of Homeland Security, the Secretary of Homeland Security, announced that, agents would start wearing body cameras. And so in terms of this hearing, obviously, a lot of the hearing, particularly that second panel with those top immigration enforcement chiefs, was focused on their conduct and, what is appropriate use of force. But that being said, I do want to get back to this issue of funding for the Department of Homeland Security, because at the end of the day, this issue of conduct is part of why funding for the Department of Homeland Security is potentially in jeopardy. And so right now it appears that these votes to continue funding for the Department of Homeland Security are poised to fail, which means it's possible funding for that agency could lapse, which would impact not just ICE or CBP, but also agencies like FEMA, the Coast Guard, U.S. Secret Service, TSA, and others. Chanel.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you.